all our praises, Lord. And we don't take it lightly what you are and who you are to us. You are our creator, Lord. Lord, and just thank you for letting us get together for a moment just to praise your name. Thank you for these teachings that we are receiving. Thank you for our elder, Lord, and our ministers, Lord, that lead and guide us. And let us be united together as one, as you and Jesus as one, Lord. Let us come together as one, Lord. Let us learn of you. Lord, give us that understanding as we study your word, Lord. And Lord, give us knowledge, Lord, so we know what to do when you build our faith, Jesus. Lord, thank you so very much for these moments. It's so precious together with your saints in your house just to praise your name. This is why you created us, Lord, and we're grateful to be here. Lord, so let our praises be unto you. Let your will be done in this place today as it is in heaven. Heavenly Father, Lord, don't let us take you for granted. We're sorry if we ever did anything against your will, Lord. We want to live for you. We want to be with you. We want to be everything you want us to be, Lord. So, Lord, give us a humble spirit, Lord. Give us a caring spirit, Lord. Don't let the devil take from us, Lord. Let us take everything back from him that he did take from us, Lord. Don't let him trick us in any way, Lord. Don't let us be among the very elect that will get it wrong, Lord. As we live for you, we love you, Lord. We'll praise you all the days of our life. In Jesus' name.
Amen. We now have the scripture from Sister Gloria Davis.
Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord.
Scripture is being taken from Psalm 1. Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stands in the path of sinners, nor sits in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law he meditates day and night. He shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that brings forth its fruit in its season, whose leaf also shall not wither, and whatever he does shall prosper. The ungodly are not so, but are like the chaff which the wind drives away. Therefore the ungodly shall not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For the Lord knows the way of the righteous, but the way of the ungodly shall perish. Amen.
Amen.
We're going to turn it over to Elder. Come on, let's give our praise team, our devotion team, a hand out for praise. I don't know where Bessie went. Oh, there she is. Thank you. Thank you so much for leading us in song. Thank you, Reverend Castabella. Okay. I inserted into our activities list a spot for our Board of Examiners. It's important and critical that the St. Petersburg District understand the candidates that have been called and that they have been examined and they are on trial and they are being they're under the auspices of the Board of Examiners. So I'm going to ask the chair of the board, the Reverend James Vincent Williams, and the board members or whoever he calls upon to read the report.
Thank you, Elder. The board has met, we've done our work, and our secretary, Reverend Kelvin Sims, will come and read our report. The rest of the board members, please come and stand with me.
St. Petersburg District Conference, Historic Bethel A.M.E Church, St. Petersburg, Florida. Reverend Kenneth Irby, host pastor. Board of Examiners meeting minutes and report. Meeting of the St. Petersburg District Board of Examiners was convened on January 28, 2019 at Historic Bethel African Methodist Episcopal Church, St. Petersburg, Florida, 11:30 a.m. by the Reverend James Vincent Williams, chairperson. In attendance were the Reverends Couture Pittman, Dean of the Board, James V. Williams, chairperson, Kelvin Price, James Sykes, Walter Lassiter, Kelvin Sims, and on day 2, January 29th, Clarence Williams and George J. Moore presiding elder. Prayer was offered by the Reverend Kelvin Sims after greetings by the chairperson, who opened the floor for discussion on the secretary of the board. It was moved by the Reverend James Sykes, seconded by the Reverend Kelvin Price, that the Reverend Kelvin Sims would serve as board secretary. The motion passed. The meeting was then turned over to the Reverend Couture Pittman, dean of the board, who then outlined the work of the board after receiving no information personally on any candidates for ministerial orders. However, information on 3 persons was received by the Reverend James V. Williams, who were then discussed. Number 1, Sister Barbara Ann Kennedy, 79 years old, licensed evangelist who has relocated from the 1st Episcopal District to the 11th Episcopal District to the St. Petersburg District, and is currently worshiping at Mount Moriah African Methodist Episcopal Church, Tarpon Springs, where she has been at for approximately the last 18 months. Her desire is to be licensed as an evangelist by the West Coast Annual Conference and to continue her evangelistic ministry. Her credentials were forwarded to the Reverend James V. Williams. Recommendation. After meeting with Sister Barbara Ann Kennedy, the recommendation of the board is to license Sister Kennedy to preach at the seat of this district conference, with minutes of the quarterly conference from Mount Moriah African Methodist Episcopal Church, Tarpon Springs, to be forwarded along with this recommendation. And it's further recommended that her name and credentials be submitted to the West Coast Annual Conference Board of Examiners for licensing as an evangelist in the African Methodist Episcopal Church. Number 2, Sister Sharon O. Nelson, age 69, licensed and ordained minister in an independent Baptist fellowship from the 1st Episcopal District. Her credentials from the Baptist Fellowship have been received by the Reverend James V. Williams. Sister Nelson is currently worshiping at Moore's Chapel, African Methodist Episcopal Church, St. Petersburg, where she is serving as an adult Bible Discovery Hour teacher, and it is her desire to serve the church in an ordained capacity and wishes to pursue local ministerial orders. Recommendation. Reverend Couture Pittman, dean of the board, recommended that Sister Sharon O. Nelson be referred back to the local church, as her dossier is incomplete without a license from the quarterly conference or recommendation from the quarterly conference. It was moved by the Reverend James Sykes, seconded by the Reverend James V. Williams, to refer the candidate back to the local church to obtain license from the quarterly conference before being received onto the District Board of Examiners. The motion passed. Number 3, the Reverend Dr. Linda Francis, licensed and ordained deacon in the African Methodist Episcopal Church, was transferred into the West Coast Annual Conference from the Central Annual Conference at the seat of the 78th Annual Session of the Conference. She is enrolled at Payne Theological Seminary and is currently pursuing her Master's of Divinity. She has obtained a Doctorate of Philosophy in Education and is employed as an assistant principal in the Manatee County School System. She has served as a pastor in the Central Conference and comes highly recommended. Currently, she is worshiping at St. Stephen's African Methodist Episcopal Church, Bradenton, Florida, and assists the pastor in whatever capacity she is assigned. Recommendation. The motion was made by the Reverend Kelvin Price, seconded by the Reverend James Sykes, that the Reverend Dr. Linda Francis be recommended to the West Coast Annual Conference Board of Examiners to fulfill the requirements of ministry and to continue the educational path she is currently pursuing. Reverend James Sykes thanked the chairperson and dean for their work and attention to detail. With no further business before the Board of Examiners, prayer was offered by the Reverend James V. Williams, chairperson, and the board adjourned. Respectfully submitted, Reverend Kelvin L. Sims, secretary, Reverend Couture Pittman, dean of the board, Reverend James V. Williams, chairperson, the Reverend James Sykes, Reverend Walter Laster, and the Reverend Kelvin Price. And also the Reverend Alethea Winston.
That is our report.
It's gotta be voted on. You've heard the report coming from the Board of Examiners. What is your pleasure?
Elder,
Yes.
I, Lorna Dixon, move that the report coming from the Board of Examiners along with the recommendation be approved.
Elder I. Kenneth Irby, second.
It's been properly moved in second that the board report be received as presented, and it's been seconded. Do we have any unreadiness from the floor? Any unreadiness? If not, all in favor by a show of hands. Opposes? The ayes carry it. The board's report has been received and accepted. Thank you so much. Thank you. My. Okay, we got some work to do. As stated tonight, we will be giving out some license for exhorters, and hopefully by Sunday school convention, the board will be able to report to you that we have a curriculum set up to have some classes for our exhorters. So what's next in line? I think it's wellness. Sister Betty. Sister Betty Smith is the district health coordinator, and she's going to come in her way and share with us some information to keep our bodies healthy. Come on, let's show Sister Betty some love. Yes. Sister Betty, yes. Could we get a podium down for Sister?
I have some handouts too, if someone can help pass these out, please.
Sister Betty, could you help? Yeah.
No, they're the same. Thank you. I was supposed to be up here for just about 10 minutes. We had a speaker that was scheduled to come and speak on mental health. There was a confusion in her schedule, and she had a replacement, and her name is Patty Anderson, and I don't think she's here. And I have not heard if she is on the way, so I guess I'll be up here a little bit longer. The Health Task Force that was established by Bishop Young and Supervisor Young back in 2011 is now the 11th Episcopal District Commission on Health, led by Bishop and Supervisor Richardson. The objectives of the commission on health is to promote healthy lifestyles, improve health knowledge in the church, and to promote health ministries development. The information that you've been handed is regarding 3 of the standards of the health-related practices that's going to be rolled out. So if you don't have a health ministry in your church, I encourage you to start one. Even if it's a bulletin board with the monthly newsletter. How many of you seen the monthly health newsletter? Ooh.
Is that out on the?
Yes. Facebook, email, Twitter.
That's out on Facebook,
Email and Twitter.
email, and Twitter. Now, excuse me, Sister Betty, because I stay up a lot longer than I should, sending emails out. We got to do a better job disseminating the emails. All right? Help me out, church. It's some good information. Our test will be when we do the February.
Okay.
All right.
So we can work on that. Or you can have a health station at your church where members can take their blood pressure or pick up information on health issues. So I really encourage you to try to establish a health ministry at your church. The 11th Episcopal District is asking churches to sign up for the Standard of Health Related Practice Initiative. And I have some more information downstairs that you can sign up so we can get that information to Dr. Ralston, who's the director. And more information will follow along with the survey. So what they're asking to get at least 5 or 6 churches from each conference to be a part of this initiative. And if you have an active health ministry, I really would appreciate if you would sign up for that. And pastors, if you have a designated person in your church that's over the health ministry, please share that information with me so I can get them signed up, get their email, so we can get the information out to them also. Now, this is the part where I was supposed to introduce Ms. Anderson. But I guess we can go over some of the information that's in the related practices. And I will go over each section. I have some numbness in my fingers and I can't feel anything. On the health ministry development, there are several benefits of having a commission on health. One is to assure the new knowledge about health and share with your church members. So there's a lot of different things that are changing, especially with blood pressure. How many of you know that the range have changed as far as health, high blood pressure? So what you thought was the norm could be now the high. Right.
It used to be the norm was 120 over 80, but now it's like 110.
It has changed, so there's a nurse downstairs. Okay. Okay, also to provide a healthy church environment, including provisions for health care and services like the blood pressure screening, healthy food options, provide support for members to adopt their best practice in their own health, and help church members connect their physical and mental health with their spiritual health. A little over a year ago, I had my annual physical, and my doctor told me, you're this away from diabetes. I changed my eating habits. I started to exercise. And I can tell you it saved my life. So you have to make that decision on, how you want to be healthy. And then with the church helping and getting information out to the congregation, that can also help, and also with the spiritual health. Now on the standards 1.2, conduct needed assessments. That's what it's going to come down from the 11th Episcopal District. They're going to be asking information on how your health ministry is being run. To get those members, are we actively getting the information out to the congregation? Also determine goals and programs that we can send out to the districts and let them know here's some best practices. And then there also will be a period where they're going to evaluate all of this information So if you are going to join the initiative, then this is something that me and Sister Valerie Lee, who is now the West Coast Conference Health Commissioner, is going to be gathering this information from the churches. On 2.0, the healthcare. All of this is like the standard address provisions of health centers and services on a consistent basis at all levels of the A.M.E. Church, including the 11th Episcopal District meetings, annual conferences, what we're doing today at the presiding elders district meetings, and then at your local churches. So this information, if you can take it back to your church and just, you know, whatever your health ministry can do, they can just go over all of this information and just educate your congregation on the health provisions, health initiatives, health practices, to better your congregation's health. Now, the standards 2.2, supplies, equipment, and material. Some churches may have a blood pressure machine. A lot of these things are kind of expensive, but as far as a first aid kit, you can have at your health station, and other materials, just written material, like I have downstairs, that you can get, and then just pass out to your congregation so they can learn more about different health issues. And then provide services, access to 911, poison control, contact information. All of that can be put on a bulletin board for your health ministry, just to educate your congregation and let them know if, you know, you cut a finger, this is where you go and get some Band-Aids or whatever. This is where you can go to get some information. And then on the last part, the health promotion. The church environment, distribute hand sanitizers, dispensers throughout the church. We have them on Sunday during communion. We have hand sanitizers, the bottles of hand sanitizers that we can just pass out to the congregation. And then have those readily in your fellowship hall, so they can just make sure that their hands are clean. In the restrooms, just have the information and the products there for your congregation. And there's also information regarding hand washing, that was part of the initial health task force, that the hand washing initiative. So all of that is still part of infectious disease prevention. There's information in here regarding communion, best practices on what you can, use, washing your hands, the cups, the trays, all of that. And that can be shared with the stewardesses also. So, they can have that clean environment doing, communion. And there's more information on hygiene and cleaning of the hands in this handout. I wish I could have prepared more. Like I said, I was only going to be up here for 5 or 10 minutes. And so I do apologize for that. But some things you cannot control. And that's sometimes people. So if you have any questions, I will try to answer them for you. The blood pressure readings, which was the standard, is 120/80. Now 140/90. If those numbers remain consistent, then you need to really see a doctor.
Yes.
Okay.
I thought Reverend just said it was
It's 120/80.
No,
Yeah,
it's
it's
140 over 90.
90.
We just spoke with the nurse downstairs. It's 140 over 90 is the current reading.
Reading.
That's bad. Yeah.
And what told you said that?
That was the original.
That was the original.
You mean as far as low pressure? Okay, this is.
We're trying to find out what is the state.
You're gonna Google it?
Google it.
You can Google it.
I know. I get mine checked regularly because it runs in my family. High blood pressure, diabetes runs in my family. And there were 6 of us. 4 of them have, well, 1 passed away. 4 of them have high blood pressure, 4 have diabetes. Me and the oldest brother, for some reason, it just kind of skipped over us.
You're not.
Yes. Yeah, he rides a bike almost every day. I exercise almost every day and change the way, the food that I was eating.
Now, my doctor told me recently that I need to stop eating sugar past about 5 o'clock. So that might be, might help somebody.
I just about cut all sugar out of my diet. Because there's other things like aguave, syrup. I don't like the powdered sweeteners because they have, stuff in it. Honey, things like that.
Suggest or nuts.
Yeah,
When you really
almonds.
snack on it, evening.
Right.
Leave that sugar alone.
Yeah.
And eat it those.
Yeah.
Everything in my body.
Everything.
Because it's not only the sugar, you have to consider the fact that carbohydrates convert into, okay, so that's also
Yeah, diabetes and hypertension are 2 diseases that African Americans have a high rate of experiencing. So it's, it's the same way in my family. Diabetes, I've been warned, you're borderline, gotta watch it. And so it's one of those 2 diseases that we really, as African Americans, really have to be careful about and do what we can to prevent it. Like you said, exercising, watching our diet, and even when we're having, of course, it's kind of left up to us to watch what we eat. But sometimes in meetings like this, they could be a little more healthier for us, for, those people who suffer with those. Or pretty much all of us, because it's probably, everyone in here probably has somebody in their family who's hypertension or type 2 diabetes. And the thing about type 2 diabetes, I had an aunt and uncle, they got the disease in their 80s. So you're not really safe. You just, unless you really, get doing what you can to prevent it. But it can come after you have read, where you can come after the age of 45. You get, that's the high risk area.
Now, we like our
Yeah, pasta, bread, rice.
Brother Dash, Google for me.
I told her.
Google. Okay, all you medical physicians. This is it. What's your license? The standard is 140 over 90. Now, of course, we would want you to be below that. But if you consistently run 140 over 90, you got a problem. You got to be treated. Yes, it used to be 120 over 80. I think they may have given us a break by upping it, but that doesn't mean you need to get off your diet and stop exercising like some of us have done. But 140 over 90, that's not good.
Right.
That's not good, y'all. That's not good. So that's what the American Heart Association is coming in with. All right? So we're gonna try and get under that. Now, if you haven't been down to the table downstairs, we need to do that. They have some good information about that. And here's a testimony standing before you. You know, that we can do it. Kudos. We gotta talk
about it. I know you talk about it, but and I'm gonna admit it. When I dropped some weight, my blood pressure went down too.
Right, that's right.
Part of my problem, not y'all. We were overweight. We have too much weight on our heart.
That's right.
And the more weight you have, it does.
No, you can finish that thought, but I just wanted to, we need to talk.
Okay.
You know, the reality is, so I'm bearing all of my burdens. I have polycystic kidney, a congenital kidney disease.
Reverend Irby, can you stand up?
Get the mic on. Get the mic. Talk in the mic.
Okay, we need to talk. We need to talk and we need to hear each other. So I'm concerned that folks will leave here with false impressions, right? So 140 over 90 is a benchmark. Right. It is not terrible. It is not like you have, that's my goal. Now, I have a congenital kidney disease, polycystic kidney, right? And so my creatinine level elevates my blood pressure. And so there are a number of things. Everybody needs, the caution is that you need to be aware of what your numbers are.
Right.
And what your physical dynamic and your physiology manifests. Because there are a lot of folk that don't have a whole lot of weight on their body, but do have hypertension because of their stress levels. Hello, somebody. I mean, I have kids in our youth program and in programs that I work with that have extraordinarily high blood pressure because of the toxic stress that they live through. And because of the erratic diets that they have. They're not getting sufficient nutrition. And so what I want everybody to understand is, and this is not, I'm not a medical doctor. I'm many things, but that's not, but I am a chronic patient because of my kidney condition. And you know, there are things that we can do in our diets immediately. Like the elimination of salt. I was just listening to T.D. Jakes preaching a sermon on black women being like salt. You can go Google that. But here's the thing. He opened with, his opening statement. He gave some foreshadowing to say, this is about spiritual salt. Not physical salt. Because physical salt is known as a black man killer. And now in this inclusive world, black folk, right? Sugar, as we were discussing, we need supplements to sugar. Now, sugar, as we digest it here in America, is not the sugar that has become so much a part of our diet and our DNA from Africa. But that's a supplement that we adapted to, you know. Honey is a long-term African, not only aphrodisiac, but dietary medication. So we got to learn. That's why I say we got to talk about these things. And for some of us, we always done this.
Right.
And that's why we've been dying in disproportionate numbers of medical maladies. Amen.
Pastor Irby, can I touch on that too? Tell a little bit about my story. And I had not taken a pill for 57 years. Nothing. And when they told me I had high blood pressure, I told them that my arms were big, they need a bigger strap. Well, it did. It went down a little bit. And they put me on blood pressure medicine, but it was not working. And Lodipine, that's the black man's blood pressure. How many of y'all take that Lodipine? It's just, a lot. They just developed that for black folks. I'm on the board at the hospital, and I learned so much from being on that board. And the doctor was quizzing me. This is something I want to tell you. Talk to your doctor.
What did you say?
We need to.
Talk.
He said, he quizzed me. I said, what you do in the morning? I said, I drink my ruby red grapefruit juice every morning. He said, time out. Guess what? Ruby red grapefruit juice killed my blood pressure. It would not work. I had to wait several hours. I quit drinking ruby red. I've been drinking all my life. Ruby red grapefruit juice was inhibiting my blood pressure medication. Had we not had that
talk.
I don't know what he would have done. And he was right. When I stopped taking my ruby red, I don't know why orange juice does not affect it. Some of you all may know. But grapefruit juice is a no-no. Right. And I'm a country boy from Bartow, Florida, the citrus capital of the world, to say ruby red ain't no good. I got one in my backyard. I mean, I don't know what y'all talking about. But it was true. And the other thing I wanted to say was, how many take more than one medication? One of the things that the doctors are dealing with now is what they call medication balance.
Yeah.
Because you take one for your heart, it could be bothering one for your blood pressure. So talk to your doctor about all your medications, even your diet, and don't forget exercise. That's the piece. Now y'all got pools and you never been in them? Time to get in it. Take your little walk, because we can't, and they cautioned me on supplement sugars, that a lot of them are very bad. I have two doctors in my congregation, because they said I was pre-diabetic, whatever that means. See, because I be thinking that you just want money. I'm not taking enough pills. You want to make me sick so I can go to the pharmacy, right? But they were right. Honey and some of the other natural sugars are a lot better for you. And then instead of salt, I have a salt substitute called Morton. It's potassium. Potassium makes your blood pressure go down, and it tastes like salt. It's potassium. It's in a little blue Morton. It says salt substitute. So those are two things I want to share.
And the other great salt substitute is garlic.
Yes.
You don't want to kill it. Yeah, you don't want to.
Garlic and apple cider vinegar.
The dark.
Something else I wanted to touch on also. When you go into the restaurants now, how many of you all look at the calorie counts?
No way.
They add up real quick.
My wife does it.
Yeah. I do too.
She does it for you.
Your daily is about 2,000.
Wait a minute.
There is a slice of cake at the Cheesecake Factory that's 2,200 calories for one slice.
Which one is that?
And it's good.
So that's something also that you can do when you go through, just look at the calorie counts. And if you're really serious, you have to.
So, by law now, they have to print that, right?
Yes.
Nutrition.
No.
We all have a story to tell. And Reverend Williams, I'm gonna piggyback on you. Yeah, he does need to. Talk with your physician. But Don and I have been fortunate enough in our health plan, we have a nurse that comes in twice a year. And she takes our vitals. And last year she shared with me that my AC1 was A1C was 6.1, which was should be less. So there's a book, and I started going to classes on Tuesday night to help, because it's a mind thing. Because your whole diet had to change, which means Brother Donald had to cook differently. So there's this book, and it was $13, and I'm going to, when we see each other, I think I'm going to send it to Brother Dasher, and we're going to put it up, just the title. There in that book, it tells you everything that you can eat, and you can eat, but it's in moderation, and because you have to count calories. So eating can be fun, but you have to watch what you eat. And of course, along with that goes is your exercise. And I'm with Reverend Williams. When I started exercising and lifting weights, my pressure went down. My sugar count went down. It's up, but it was down. Yeah, I holidays, and I just got lazy, and I did. So I share with you, if you had noticed, when I met with Sister Faith, who is the chair of our culinary committee here, I tried to have her prepare light meals. Yes, I know we like our grits and eggs and a piece of meat. I asked for turkey sausage to help us out a little bit. For lunch, I said, some salads and some soups and a sandwich and fruit, light. Dinner can be a little heavy, but we've got to eat before 6 o'clock. So there's a time element in everything. So again, I ask you to, visit the table downstairs, talk with your physician. When we come to church and we hear a word, sometimes it sticks. And, we are messed up, but God walks through that mess. And Reverend, it never dawned on me until last night. Everybody in the Bible was in a mess. When you said that, I said, you got that right. There was no one. Okay? And then we need to talk. So continue to talk, because there's a breakthrough once you finish talking. There's a breakthrough. Brother Moody had a question. I think there was a question.
I was asking Reverend Williams. Yes, sir. Were you saying potassium or potassium?
No, potassium. Yes. I work for Mosaic.
Okay.
Mosaic, a lot of people don't know, is a producer of salt. So you got salt mines in Carlsbad, New Mexico, And up in Canada, I was actually up in Canada where we had salt mines up there, about 2 miles down from Dash. And you go down, it's 20 below.
Yes, it is.
We're in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan.
Yeah, that's where we were.
Went down 2 miles down, and it's 80 down there. And the veins, some of them are tall as this church, some of them are this tall. The guys on their knees. But salt and potassium go together. They kind of come out together. Salt is sodium chloride. So potassium is potassium chloride. Same thing, but the chloride is what your body acts on to make your blood pressure go up. And potassium does not have that ingredient. So Morton makes one. It's a blue thing. It's called salt substitute. You will not know the difference. And it's stronger than salt, so you don't need but a little bit. But it contains potassium, which actually helps your body. Because how do you get potassium every morning? There you go. Something else we need to do. Get you that one banana every morning. You eat you that one banana. And then that potassium that you don't get from that banana, you can get it from your salt substitute. And it'll help me a lot.
And the reason that you really need to talk is because, well, especially with your doctors, is that some people have potassium adverse reaction. Right?
Exactly.
And so what works for Clarence Williams may not work for you.
Yeah.
Right?
Most people that take amlodipine take a water pill too. Hydrochlorothiazide, everybody takes that?
Yeah.
All right, for me, it made me cramp.
Okay.
I had to take chlorhydrothiazide. A different, again, balance. And so the reason that's so important is because your doctor is trying to see 60 patients.
That's right.
And if you don't check him up, he'll be gone before you look, So you make him stay there. Give you your 2 minutes. Because remember now, the doctors have to see. And I'm going to give you, for instance, and I'll move on. At the hospital board training 3 months ago, we had it where the doctor in 1999 saw 31 patients. For the same money, he has to see 63 today.
In one day?
Yes. Wow. For the same money that he got to see 31, he has to see 63. She tell your husband that. And what you pay depends on what you got to work with. Okay? You'll pay, you go to the emergency room, it may be a $5,000 bill. Your insurance company is sending them $50. And your copay. And see, one of the problems we got in America is the LIP, low income pool. This is why they don't want health care. Because hospitals are paid for services rendered. Which means if you go, they do something, they get paid. That money comes out of the low income pool. LIP. Okay? They want to keep that. The problem with that is there is no proactive money in there to help you get a hold of your condition. So basically, all you do is come for emergency room visits. Right. See, there is no weight loss. There's no doctor consultation in there. There's no proactive health initiatives to help you stop smoking, help you lose weight, these sorts of things. And that's really what we need. Prenatal treatments, physicals, these sorts of things. We had a person in Alabama die from a toothache. Never went to get a check, got an abscess and died. So we really need screenings and these sorts of things so that we can catch stuff early. Prevent it. None of that is in there. And that's the little trick. No. LIP is exactly what it says. They get paid for what, sister? Services rendered. That's it. And so they don't render service when you get advanced screenings. So they don't get a chance. They're not interested in it. And see, what we've done is become full circle. Remember we had indigent healthcare, they call them county hospitals.
That's right.
See, we've come full circle. Now, instead of county hospitals, you got an urgent care clinic where? On every corner. Because John Ruth Clark, now we got 8 hospitals. We provide you, and we cannot advertise. Another thing, all you see is Bay Health. You never see, y'all ever seen a commercial? We can't by law do it. We do $16 million, 44,000 patients a year over there.
Yep.
And we have to provide dental free.
Yep.
They expect you to do that free. Got the highest rating of any health facility in the United States. We did. #1. Right here, yes. Pinellas County Health Center, we were #1. They wouldn't even let us put that out there. Anyway, we provide services for $90 that will cost you $380 at the hospital. And that's what's wrong with some issues. Sorry, go on.
No, that's why, that's the kind of information that our health ministries need to disseminate to the congregation so they'll know what's going on. Something the elder had said about eating early. You burn most of your fat while you're sleeping, if you didn't know that. So if you're eating after 9 o'clock, you know, you're not helping. So the earlier you can get on a schedule and keep that schedule, like eat your breakfast, your snack, your lunch, your dinner, at the same time, you're creating a cycle, and then you're burning up that fat while you're sleeping. Also with the bananas, you know, eating one day, they start to go bad, cut them up and freeze them. And you can use those for shakes. That's what, you know, I do. I do a protein shake every morning with some type of fruit. And that's usually my breakfast. A snack in between lunch. What I did today for lunch, I took the bread off, wrapped the meat up in the lettuce, and that was my sandwich. I had a small one. Sister Julie.
One thing we need to be aware of, the sodium content on labels in the grocery store, the canned goods, the packaged meat, frozen dinners, they're all high in sodium. So we have to be mindful of that.
And you know why? She's absolutely right.
Preservative.
Exactly.
I know.
The salt as preservative.
Yeah. So you can get like little small frozen vegetables in the bags.
Yeah, or take the water out the can ones like I do. I like my can. I'm sorry, I'm a Del Monte guy. They have bought up a lot of land in Florida along 60. You see that used to be all strawberry. Del Monte is coming into Florida growing all kind of vegetables. If you take the liquid that was canned in, pour that out, then put you some water in there. It'll cut the sodium content a lot. Right. What about chips?
What about chips?
They have the baked chips. Those are the baked chips. The veggie chips. It's an acquired taste.
What about the air fryer?
I haven't tried them.
You want one? Can't get flavor out of air. You know, it's fast and baked food. That's what you get your flavor from.
He knows you to talk.
Anybody want an air fryer? I got one.
But see, the key for us is everything in moderation.
Right.
You can have a lot of things, it's the amount of it that you have. Not 5 chips, but a bag of chips. Like you did today, wrapping your turkey in lettuce, no bread. But everything in moderation, and we haven't gotten to that.
Yes.
Water. Water is very important. I have one of the jugs.
Gallon?
Well, not quite a gallon. but it's almost. And I fill it up, drink it. Maybe I can do 2 a day, maybe, but usually do 1. But a lot of water, and it keeps you clean. And takes out a lot of toxins and things like that.
And the soda.
Oh,
Even
those,
the diet soda.
those,
bad.
those,
A lot of
those.
soda.
Your body accepts it better. The cold water, you tend to sip and set aside. Get a bottle of room temperature water, and you'll probably.
Yeah. That's why I use just a bottle of water, and don't put it in the refrigerator, just drink it from there.
And adding, slice of lemon in your water, particularly, there's, I like to watch Dr. Oz. He's pretty good, you know, with talking about your health and things. And they were saying, you know, when you wake up in the morning, the first thing that you should drink is water with lemon in it because it can, you know, cleanse it.
It also can speed up your
Yeah.
It brings down blood pressure.
Yeah, so I kind of been doing that.
Any other questions?
Sometimes, that's what I had to do with hot water and lemonade.
The title of the book.
Oh, that's cute.
What do they?
Name the book.
I will, you'll have it, I'll send it to Brother Dasher tonight when I get in. Okay, yeah, okay.
Excellent.
We just need to talk.
Right.
Not only with our physician, but among ourselves. Because we can help each other out. Be surprised that, you know, you have something that I may want to talk to my doctor about. Could I use? I never knew about that hospital. Where's that hospital at you?
Well, we got Jonathan Clark. We got 8 of them throughout. If you go to Pinellas County Health Centers, they're all there. We got a lot of them. We just dedicated one in Lellman. We're getting ready to build a brand new one. And we do dental, and we have a woman's clinic in this one down here.
Where's this one down here?
It's on 22nd and right across from Doug Jameson, St. Pete College.
Okay.
Yeah. And they were gonna mow that down,
Okay.
save that building. And it's a nice building, and we're getting ready to move the administrative people out of there, and get some more clients in there. And I want to ask, how many of us got health ministries in your church? Because Elder, I think, if one initiative that we could do, and I will volunteer myself and Sister Betty, we will come to your church, local church, and help you establish. All you need is one person that's interested in health. We got documentation, we got stuff we can give them, because this is important, because a lot of people need to hear this and not hear. Amen. So if you want to do that, just let me know.
That's right. Well, one of Sister Betty's initiatives, and she opened up with that, is that we must establish a health ministry in our churches. So pastors, I'm going to charge you. You know, there's some questions I ask when I come to the quarter, and yes I do. That's going to be one of them on the second quarter. I want to know the health ministry, because it may save someone's life if it's not your own, okay? Or extended, you're absolutely right. So these are the things that we, on the St. Pete District, we're gonna be bringing to you. Now, Sister Kay is not here, but Sister Stone is here. And Sister, okay, I don't see, Sister Osborne is here. We're gonna be doing some things different at our Sunday school convention. Because not only do adults need to hear about health, our children need to hear. Our children are heavy. And so we have to help the parents help the children. So we, St. Petersburg District, we're going to start. We began introducing it for the last 2 days. We're going to continue the church school convention. God bless you. So you stay tuned. We need to talk. And when we come together, that's one of the things that we're going to be talking about is healthy living for our children. And Sister Valerie, she's in the back. She's our West Coast Conference Health Initiative Coordinator. You and Sister Betty get together and talk with the Christian education, because we need to introduce in June a health ministry for our young people. So thank you again, Sister Betty. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you again. I think it was very helpful. And now, I think we're okay. You all right, Brother Johnson?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm turning this over to Sister Linnell Baker, who's going to talk to us. Know your church.
Good afternoon. We have some things that are being distributed to you. And you know, before I believe in gamification as a learning tool. So we're talking about know your church. So I just want to do just a little assessment, because our focus today is going to be on stewards and stewardesses, their role and responsibilities. And just to put some icing on the cake, we're going to talk about deaconesses. Now, there is a distinct difference between a stewardess and a deaconess. So we're going to talk about those things. But prior to us getting there, I need to know just how much you know about the A.M.E. Church and its organizational structure before we move forward. So I have this little game. It's called multiple choice. And there are an array of questions, just basic questions, things that you should know as an A.M.E. member. Basic question. There are 3 books that's usually all A.M.Es should have. There are 3.
How many?
3.
3.
At least 3. Now, I know that these lay people, I know you know them.
Yes,
Correct?
Yes.
we know them.
That's correct? All right. So, just for review, somebody name them for me.
The discipline,
The discipline,
the Bible,
the Bible,
and the hymnal.
and the hymnal. And for those that are in the ministry and our pastors and our ministers, you have what?
Book of worship.
The book of worship. They just revised this book for you. So pastors, if you don't have it,
The big one or the little one?
the little one, they just modified it. Okay, but so let's spend about 2 minutes. I just want to take you to just about pop up a show of hands. Now, someone, you read the question and give me your answer. Someone, anyone? All right, let's tell you how Linnell do this. We volunteer, or we voluntold.
Okay, I'll read it.
Okay, so those that are pretty familiar, know how we do this thing. So let's start to my immediate left over here. Someone volunteered, and it's a learning opportunity. So if you don't know, we take this opportunity to learn. So, Sister Gloria, read it loud. Can you, if you can't see it, I will read it for you. Do I need to read it?
The board is composed of all class leaders, exhorters, deaconesses, stewards, trustees, stewardesses, and presidents of all organizations of a station, to include the president of the lay organization.
Okay, now read your options. A is the Board of Examiners.
Now, official board.
B is Executive Board. C,
official board, and D, quarterly conference.
My answer is C.
Your answer is C. Do we agree with that?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Where's your point at, man?
Oh, right here.
Okay.
Can't have it.
Brother Dasher just tried to help you.
Hey.
Y'all
That's a woman, brother.
I know
That's
that.
right. No. I got this. You are absolutely correct. You are correct. It is the official board. Okay, next question. From the middle out.
This organization used composed of 3 or more persons was formed for the purpose of encouraging men to become involved in helping other men find Christ in their lives. Sons of Allen, Boy Scouts of America, A.M.E Ministry, Council of Bishops. A.
Sons of Allen. That should be a no-brainer. Right? Okay. And let's see. What about this? Over here.
All local preachers are subject to the authority of one of the following: A, Board of Examiners; B, Council of Bishops; C, Minister in Charge; D, Presiding Elder District.
C.
Read the question.
All
Local preachers.
subject to authority
Read the question.
Presiding Elder
It's
District.
not a trick question.
D,
All local preachers
Presiding Elder District.
are subject to.
Minister in charge.
Look at your organizational structure within your infrastructure of the A.M.E church and your local church. You have local preachers within the you know what a local preacher is? Maybe I should have done that one rather than Stewart. Right, locals. Well, let's say, you say C?
Yeah.
That's, your locals are under the authority of the minister in charge of the local church. Whoever got that appointment. Whoever got that appointment. But your local preachers, okay? Not those that have been ordained or you know, in a different category, not itinerancy. These are locals, which means that they have either decided that they didn't want to pursue an itinerancy, or they are not eligible, they don't meet, you know, whatever the qualification age prohibits them, and they are locals. They are under the authority of the minister in charge of that church.
Local pastor.
Local.
The pastor.
Pastor.
Thank you.
Pastor.
The pastor in charge. Okay? All right, let's do one more and then we'll switch over. Okay. Not everybody. These aren't trick questions.
What organization or board is responsible for watching over new members with special care and recommending those who are eligible for full membership upon their profession of saving faith?
We have the board of stewards. We have the bishop's council. We have the doorkeepers, and we have the class leaders council. The board of stewards, you say A?
I think it's D. I think it's D. Class leaders. D.
Class leaders council.
I need to do another workshop, Elvis. No. And what did you say?
D.
D? Your class leaders.
You got classes and count. I don't know what that is.
That's right. We in a lot of churches do not have class leaders council.
Listen. We got to get let's not play with words. Your class leaders, whether you call them a committee or whether you call them a council or whatever you call them, in your book of discipline, okay, they have that responsibility. Now, I'm going to ask you another question, and then we're going to move on from this one, merely because of the fact, at what time of the year, our church year, and when during the course of the quarter, who else has a responsibility for maintaining roll and membership? Who else?
Stewards.
The Board of Stewards. Okay, very good. So that's a leeway into our focus on where we need to be at this time.
Before you go into that, since there was some discussion about that word council, if we had taken off the word council, would you have said class leader?
No, they wouldn't.
No.
They said just what they said.
No, you need to examine yourself.
I think it's confusing language.
Okay, then
And
we
got
need to
remember
talk.
something, and Linnell is doing a good job. The discipline is not a guide like you think. It is a guide, but it's not. It has to be interpreted.
It's still a guy.
The bishop has the right to interpret it for his district. The elder has the right to interpret it for her district. The pastor has the right to interpret it for his church. So I would say language needs to be consistent, because one could be believing that we need to develop a class leaders council. And the discipline doesn't speak to that. But I think she just used that word in lieu of other words, but that's fine. But the correct answer, class leaders are responsible for that. But it does not refer to a council. And these are the sorts of words, lightning and lightning bug sound similar. Okay? But it's a big difference. So I would say for the purpose of teaching, I think we need to be consistent. But she's absolutely right in what she's saying. I'm just saying. Yeah. And come out here.
Okay. There is much to learn from the Book of Discipline. Warranted, some of the pieces are subject to interpretation. Some of the things that are subject to interpretation, but a lot of things are basic.
Right.
Across all A.M.E churches. And we do that, that is done for consistency. It is now and up for debate at some times that we always want to walk into an A.M.E church. And we know that we're in an A.M.E church. So some of the things that we do as far as our order, as far as our structure is concerned, should look pretty much the same. You're gonna have some difference of variances in some things, but basically they're going to look like an A.M.E church. They're gonna sound like, even when you introduce contemporary music and some of those things, some of the aspects of it, our basics are still gonna be the same, okay? So that's not subject to interpretation. It's in the style and what's required in your church. But basically, we're all A.M.E. So what we're going to do now, and some of what I say may be repeat, serve as a refresher for you, and some things may be new to you. We're going to always encourage you to ask questions. I don't claim to be the all subject matter expert, but between all of us in here, certainly we'll come to a consensus, I'm sure. Okay? So, our objectives, we're going to talk about stewards and what does it mean to be a steward? What does that name mean? And what does our organizational structure look like at the local level within the African Methodist Church? We're going to describe the composition, state, boards, we're going to explain the 3 tables of stewards, and we're going to discuss the duties and responsibilities of stewardesses and deaconesses. If you want to find that, Your local church in your book of discipline is from page 85, okay? 85. Not the 1908 discipline. The 2016 discipline, okay? That's what, and everybody has one, right?
Right.
Yes. Who doesn't have a discipline?
Yeah, I gave one to each one of my
Yes,
stewards and
he
trustees.
did.
We got
Yes, he did.
because this is important.
We have them, we haven't read it all.
You know,
Some
sometimes we
officers
have
here,
books
did
and
you
we
all
don't
get 'em?
read
Yes,
them.
sir, we got them.
All right, okay, but nonetheless, those that have, and if you have any additional questions, or you even need one, just communicate that. We'll talk, okay? Because it is essential that within the A.M.E. church, especially if you are an officer, that you need to know how the A.M.E. church functions. Basic, even with some modifications, you need to know. So, this is what our local A.M.E. church looks like, the infrastructure. We have our pastor and the components of the official board, where your first question, you answered your first question. There should be common language here and common knowledge about what and who make up the official board. How many of you attend official board? Is the official board just for officers?
No.
Okay, so how many of you that did not raise your hand ever went to an official board? How many of you that are not officers have ever attended an official board? It's a good experience. Go the next time. You find that you have, rather than the parking lot meetings after the meeting, you will learn a lot within the confines of that official board. That's where the business of all the church takes place, okay, at the official board. Even though you may not be an officer, you still are invited. Usually, you should be invited to attend the official board. Now, when it comes to voting for things that require a vote, that may be different, but sharing of the information, you should be allowed to sit in that. Yes, ma'am.
I see you have Christian education there. Now, maybe this is where, again, with the terms, maybe it's the Christian Education Commission, wherein the Women's Missionary Society, the Young People's Division, the church school, and all are under that. Is that correct, or?
What is your question?
You have Christian education where it is there on the organizational board, but I have heard that the Christian education is over the Women's Missionary Society, the church school, the Young People Division, and it's under that Christian. Those groups fall under Christian education. But when you look at here, it's not that way.
And that is true. Just last week, was it last week? Week before last? Last week, we were in Christian Education Leadership Institute.
True, right.
So, Christian WMS is a separate organization from Christian Aid. Now, according to what was shared last week, they even said that the lay organization fell under the Christian education.
Right.
But it was merely from the training component that the lay organization is a training tool, whereas Christian education is also a training component. It hasn't been decided yet. But this is the old structure. But missionary is not under Christian education. Totally separate. They have separate purposes. The YPD falls under
WMS.
the WMS. that's the umbrella there. And of course, you know, it's no longer church school. This has been modified within the 11th Episcopal District. Only within the 11th Episcopal District have we modified that name to now Bible Discovery Hour. So it's important that we come, that we hear all this new stuff that's going on, so when we go back to our general population, our general audience, Congress, that we can at least share information that is, correct? At least close to it anyway.
If I can give an example, using a house, that would be Christian education. The rooms in the house would be our different organizations. We can't have the house without the rooms. And so with Christian education in the local sense at a church, you come together to formulate the educational part of the church. So the calendar can be made from Christian education. That way, everything will be set and not every organization bumping into each other and having things on the same day.
Right. Thank you, Reverend Astor.
Yeah, that's what I do.
What's that?
Christian education formulates the education plan for the entire church,
Right.
including we review church school curriculum, new members curriculum, officer training, all of that comes underneath. Since my daughter, she keeps me straight over there.
Yeah.
And it's a great way to do that.
Absolutely, absolutely. But you know, and just a side bit, some churches don't put as much emphasis on Christian education as perhaps they should. You know, we hear a lot about WMS, we hear a lot about some of the other churches, but Christian education is one that we do not put that much emphasis on within our church, for perhaps various reasons.
Not all of our churches.
Correct.
I don't want to say that, you know, that's across the board. That is not. And even though WMS and YPD is out there, under the teaching umbrella, they have a large teaching part.
Correct.
Theirs as well. So, in the large scheme of things, they should be one of those rooms as well, especially because that calendar comes from Christian Ed, and we know WMS and YPD always got stuff going on. So,
You know, I think until James Wade began to raise the awareness throughout the nation, I think a lot of districts kind of marginalized Christian education.
Yeah, yeah. So it is vibrant. It has wealth and it has worth, you know, within that. Of course, we have the lay organization, which is also, you know, the training component. But we have a lot of other stuff that falls under Boy Scouts, all of that really is under Christian education. So, now, these are the constituent boards that we will be discussing. And one other that I left is the deaconesses board. So we're gonna focus on the board of stewards, the board of stewardesses, and we're gonna have a brief discussion about the deaconesses. And again, all of that you will find in your book of business. I need a mic.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's right there.
Oh! It's the one. The microphone! Jeez. I've always been told that my mouth didn't go. Nonetheless, here's what we have. So we have, and this is very important, walk away. The pastor appointed by the presiding bishop to the local church shall be the chairperson of the board of stewards. Okay? We all knew that, correct? And not only is the pastor the chairperson of the board of stewards, what else would the pastor govern?
entire church, all the boards. It is all.
Just so you know, just serve as a reminder that the pastor is the ex officio of every component within your local church. So you can't just not uninvite the pastor. God, you don't want the pastor to know y'all business. Okay? So we have to recognize that authority. A steward, what is a good steward? Many of you perhaps have a lot of definitions of what a steward is. And other than what I have here, just give me one, two. What, before you saw this, what is a steward? What does it mean to be a steward within the African Methodist Episcopal Church? Spiritual leader, okay. What else?
You are an overseer of someone else's stuff. You don't oversee.
Okay, we oversee stuff.
Amen.
Eddie? I know, she didn't say mess. She said stuff. Which may turn into a mess, but it's stuff.
We should be encouragers.
Excuse me?
An encourager.
Encourager. Okay, Joyce.
Well,
did you Google it? Oh, I thought you had your pad. Go ahead.
well, now, I lately learned the real purpose of a steward. For some people, I do believe that their purpose when they serve as a steward is to serve in behalf of the pastor and to make sure things are in order for the pastor.
Okay, hold that thought.
Now, does anybody else?
We coming down that avenue. Just
yeah.
hold that thought. Okay. Okay. Good assessment. Yeah.
It used to be back in the day, I know that, as I was taught, that the stewards were the pastor's right-hand person. So like if the pastor gets sick and they can't preach that Sunday, the steward jumps in and takes over. You don't have an associate pastor.
Okay. Good dialogue, which may lead to a lot of mess, but you know, that's so we understand what how many stewards are in here? How many stewards? Great. So then this serves as a refresher for you. Okay. But for the other people, they will know now what you are supposed to be doing within the church. A steward, of course, as it has been articulated, a steward is a person who manages the affairs of God. And I did hear that one definition, someone said they are spiritual leaders within the church. So it says, what is that? What does that mean when we say a spiritual leader? It means that a part of the steward, but a part of your duty, number one, is to attend Bible study.
Yep.
Love feast.
Prayer meeting.
Bible discovery hour. You stewards. How can you encourage your membership from a spiritual standpoint if you fail to participate in either one of these entities that indeed exemplify the spirituality of God? That's our conversation, to create an environment to assist the pastor in creating that environment which encompasses all of the other membership regarding your spirituality, to encourage folk that yes, indeed, it may look dark right now, but because there is a God, that we can hold on and come together and do what we need to do to make this happen. Eddie Dage.
Yes, I was going to say that we should lead by example, and we all know that none of us are perfect. There's only been one perfect person, but I strongly believe if you're gonna be a leader, you should lead by example. And everything will fall into place. I learned that at a very early age, that good leaders lead by example.
Okay, and certainly, there is a thing that says, we usually say practice makes perfect.
Same thing, yep.
But it's perfect patch makes perfect. Not any old practice. Perfect practice makes perfect. Okay? Not just practice. All right? So yes, indeed, their primary concern is on the spiritual warfare of our people, which means that you must also be ready to pray upon the beck and call. Have we ever had stewards that refused to pray?
Yeah.
Yes.
But you are responsible for the spirituality of it in the whole context of what that encompasses. So what does the Bible say? You know, everything we say and everything we do is biblically based. So if you go to Titus 1:7-9, it will tell us, for an overseer as God's steward must be above reproach. And that's what we call good and regular standing. He must not be arrogant, or quick-tempered, or a drunkard, or violent, or greedy for gain, hospitable, a lover of good, self-control, upright, holy, and discipline. Am I not describing a human? He must hold firm to the trustworthy word as taught, which means he must be into God's word. And you get into God's word by coming on Sunday mornings to attend our sermons. Not be selective about what Sunday you're going to come to hear. Not refusing to participate in Bible study. Those kinds of things that will really put you in an even-minded spirit of being that other people look to do, so that he or she may be able to give instruction in sound doctrine, which means that the steward plays a major role in disseminating the myths and the stuff that goes on within the church, so that we won't have to have parking lot meetings to discuss the things that we just discussed. So it is a plus when it comes to the role. It's a very serious role when we talk about being a steward in the church. Now earlier, and I've said we coming down that street merely because of the fact that the Book of Discipline and any other thing that you will Google or that you will research says that the constituent, the pastor's cabinet, constitute the pastor's cabinet, and are important in the running machinery of the church. But if you don't come to know how the church operates, not even in lay organizations, which is very, very important as far as the lay organization and the training and all of these things, basic things. You don't have opportunity to read your Book of Discipline to actually know. So when people come to you with things that don't, it's almost like know the Bible for yourself. Have to know the discipline for yourself. And that particular interpretation to make sure, if you don't know the pastor's right there, to have that talk for clarity and understanding, to make sure that you're all on the same page and you're moving in the same direction. You stewards are the pastor's advisors to assist them. Now, we know The only thing we can do is advise. Not get mad because either he or she doesn't do what you would like, but at least you have shared from the perspective of, because you're a part of the congregation. So stewards hear things, and people come to them, and they talk to them. So as advisors of the pastors, they will probably come to you before they go to the pastor. So therefore, it is a part of your responsibility as being a steward to take it to the pastor. Now, he or she may tell you to go somewhere, but nonetheless, it has been shared. So that whatever decision it is, it has been an informed decision, because they cannot say they did not know. So you are accountable to the pastor in charge for the constant and regular discharge of your duties. And we say accountable to the pastor. Why? What do you believe that statement means when you say accountable to the pastor? Stuart?
Pastor is in charge of everything, so whatever comes up, since we're his cabinet, we're kind of like the middleman between the members and the pastor.
And as far as how did you get to be a steward in the first place?
You were
you were what, steward?
Appointed by the pastor.
By whom?
By the pastor.
Okay, therefore, that statement, accountable to the pastor. You're not an independent entity that floats and makes your own independent decisions. Sister May.
That person that comes to you and tell you something they want to know, they want done in the church, and you go to the pastor and tell them, but then that person expects you to come back and tell them what the pastor said.
But that's okay.
Oh, yeah.
That's sharing of information. And you discern how to handle that. Okay? You discern how to handle it and when to handle it after you talk.
To the pastor.
Because we don't want to start no mess. Okay, so moving forward, it says that the pastor may appoint a chairperson, and of course we know the pro tem, to act in his or her absence. Now look at the second bullet, which I believe sometimes is overlooked, but it's very important. All business conducted in his or her absence shall be subject to what? Veto by the pastor. Okay? Even in his or her absence. Even when they appoint the pro tem and they let the pro tem lead this particular, say, board of steward meeting, whatever your decisions made in that meeting are subject to veto. I want you to keep that in mind. That not to say, well, the board of stewards decided, maybe, yes, we did, but then we need to talk to the pastor to make sure that our decisions are we justify the reasons for our actions and the reasons why we came to that decision. And never try to create a confrontational discussion on whatever it is.
What page is that on?
The discipline says.
It's so long, I don't see it in.
It's in there. You just start at page 85. Keep reading. Start at page 85. Okay? Yeah? No, the handout just gives some little snippets. Okay? About some important points that you need to keep in mind. The discipline says, before a member is appointed a steward, they should be a well-informed member and should be pious in character. So the question to you, what does it mean to be pious in character? What does it mean? I mean, we see all these things that's written in the discipline. We we see good and regular standard. What does that mean? And now we're talking about you must be pious in character. What is that? What does that mean? What does that mean? Almost regal? Wow. Wow. Proper circumstance. Regal. Okay, what else?
Means dutiful. Serious about your duty.
Serious.
Serious about your obligation. Committed to fulfilling.
Absolutely. So when people tell you that you must be pious in character, marked by or showing reverence, which means you really must be serious about the Word and the Word of God. You must be willing to get into the Word of God so that you can share it with the additional members, so that when they come with something that doesn't sound quite right, that you're able or in the position to make it correct by giving references to. If they don't believe you, you can say, well, in the Book of Discipline, page 85, it says such and such. Okay? And that's according to Webster. Before a member is nominated by the pastor to serve as a steward, they should demonstrate their ability to work with others in harmony, assume the role of leadership, and to prepare and maintain records that are necessary for the efficient operation of the local church. That you are people persons, that individuals seek you out for answers to their questions or to their concerns, that your personality must be afforded, that they do not hesitate to come to you to have a discussion or to ask a question. They must not say, and certainly perhaps this is a fantasy world here that we're talking about, because I know individuals will say, yeah, I don't want to talk to Linnell. She thinks she knows everything. Or I don't want to talk to Sister Shirley because she's the pastor's buddy. Those kinds of things actually have no place in our churches, because we're talking serious about the Word of God. And if we are to be Christ-like, that kind of mentality, those kinds of actions, those kinds of attitudes prevent us from being effective, and certainly just meeting that definition of steward. The person must know and love the Word of God, which is what we just said. Okay? You must be into the Bible. Now we understand if we're not Bible scholars, we can't get it right 100%. We're not going to get it right 100%. Like sometimes we don't get the scripture all right. But we make a concerted effort to make sure that what we do is correct by following the book of discipline. The most recent book of discipline. Things change. Even though you say, well, I got one in 2008, so that should be pretty good. But what happened in 2008? They made some changes, which may or may not negatively impact you as a member of the congregation, but you wouldn't know because you got a 2008. And when I say page 85, your page 85 is something totally different. The person must be fruitful and of good nature and acquire ability to transact spiritual and temporal. Now, our trustees also are responsible for some things that are temporal, not all the things. The stewards have an obligation with some temporal things that are not otherwise identified for trustees, that are not otherwise identified by trustees. So all the temporal things do not fall under the obligation and responsibility of the Board of Trustees. As you know, the steward board manages
What? Money?
Finance.
Finance. Correct? Yeah? So there are certain things that the church requires that are temporal, that requires a steward to be integrally involved in that transaction. So don't, step aside and say, oh, that's the trustee. Trustee's supposed to do that. Stewards, you have a role in that. And we're supposed to work together. Anyway, each person should have a member of the African Methodist Episcopal Church for 2 years. Except in the case where you are doing a new congregation. New congregations that the requirement doesn't matter, and it doesn't fit. Now, I don't know how many of you have a junior board of stewards. How many of you have a junior board of stewards within your church? You have a board of stewards, and then you have the junior stewards. I saw one hand. I know we do. Yeah, we do. Nobody else? This is a training mechanism. How you train young folk, or how you train other people to follow in their footsteps, even though stewards are not going to be there forever. Well, stewards should be there forever. Okay. And look at that last bullet. The steward so nominated and confirmed shall serve for what? 1 year. So each time that annual conference comes up, and each time we start a new nomination. And if indeed some of the same folk just happen to be nominated again by the pastor, they have only served 1 year. Okay? And sometimes when we move, when we progress up, but we want to change in a different direction in the mindsets of people, sometimes we have to do things just a little bit differently. But it is understood that you're not there for life, but 1 year. Just like the pastor, 1 year. Now he or she may come back, may be reappointed, 19 years, 20 years down, but 1 year. Okay. Here, submit them, and this is when we talk about the process. You heard the elder say she's going to confirm those stewards that have not already been confirmed. The pastor in charge shall nominate the number of stewards, and we see the number between 3 and 19, that once that's done, then you submit, those names are submitted to the quarterly conference. And who is in charge of the quarterly conference?
Presiding elder.
Presiding elder, absolutely. Which shall confirm them, or if it sees fit, reject them. Because there is a portion in there, all those things that I identified, being harmonious, being working, doing this, doing that, doing pious. Have you met all of those particular things? Seek out the needed. Number 2, one of the questions that we asked about the class leaders, the board of stewards, to make accurate reports of every expenditure of money. Every expenditure of money. Whether it's to the pastor, the church, the sick, the poor, whatever you did, the board of stewards should know. Should know. We have the formulation, and some of you, and this differs from church to church. We have finance committee, or we have stewardship committee, or we call them councils, or we call them whatever it is. The composition, usually, it's 2 stewards, maybe 2 trustees, and an ad hoc. An ad hoc is an individual that is not an officer. Okay?
but he or she, that particular committee. And when you have your board of stewards meeting, that part is shared with the stewards to give them the opportunity to now strategize as to how best can we make this happen. You heard us talk about strategic plan. Plan your work. Work your plan. See, you know that the budget is coming up next month. Don't wait till the month before to try to come up with $12,000, $14,000. We should always have a plan of action. The salary, and this is something else that's important, the salary of a full-time minister shall be negotiated by whom? And pastor and the board of stewards, which means we have to talk. You got to talk. Now the money, or that salary, or the cost of living, depends upon the ability of the church to pay. Many of you have gone to annual conferences. You've seen the reports. You see whether a church makes $20,000 a year and the pastor's salary is $15,000. So that's $5,000 in the hypothetical numbers. But you feel me, okay? That $5,000 may not be enough to do the administrative operation, lights on, other things that are necessary. So that's why it has to be negotiated in good faith. In good faith. We talked about this. Stewards should attend the quarterly conference too. Such meetings as this, the steward should be here. St. Pete district meeting, you are accountable to the district. Attend all the meetings that we are responsible for. You not only get additional information, you have the opportunity to share.
You mean to tell me not only the district stewards supposed to be here, but all the other stewards?
For real? Absolutely.
I'm just checking.
I know. But you know, in all sincerity, I don't believe when we were talking about that a little earlier. About sometimes they just don't know. Don't know, don't care, don't want to know.
Some of them got jobs too now.
That is a legitimate excuse.
Well,
and we can.
You can call it an excuse and certainly.
I mean a reason.
Yeah,
Not
that's
an
a
excuse.
difference.
A reason.
You know, we got to understand that this book has not been modified for some time. Now, everything Sister is saying is true. But when the last time do you give out a ticket for Love Feast? That's in there too.
Right.
And all I'm saying is the church has to evolve. This book is right. We should be here. We should be in district conference. But I sure want them to go to work. Because come Sunday, I need their time. I'm just being straight. And you know, it is what it is. Now, it does not mean use this as an excuse not to be trained and not to be knowledgeable and not to be competent. Because you could go to work and still get trained. And thank God for our elder because she has multiple ways. Brother Dasher has information. We have people like Linnell, me, she's brought other people in. So now I can understand you. And you do have vacation, 30-year girl, that you could take a day, half day. You sure take time for the classic.
Amen.
You take time for all other days. So again, back to that word pious, committed, diligent, and dutiful. I'm going to take a half day to go get me some training, you know, and so.
Yeah, it's understandable that, well, a year ago, I was in the same situation.
On that job.
1 year. The federal government. Thank you.
And was going, wasn't it?
Going. And I had to take our vacation day, annual leave, to come and attend. But the idea is, I'm interested enough. It's foretold, isn't it? It didn't happen last week that everybody knew that this was going to happen.
3 months ago, 4 months ago.
I'll announce it will happen next year, 2020.
Amen.
Okay? So our planning, you remember plan your work your plan. You know, I'm not saying because I know Wanda went to work today. That's right. Another federal government, I know about them. Thank God for them. But the message is make a concerted effort.
And when you're past the office training, you don't come. The district office training, you don't come. The bishop office training, you don't come. Then you have to ask yourself, where is being a steward on your priority list?
Yeah.
Because again, there are multiple ways that you get trained. So that's when you have to ask yourself. Listen, everybody in this room got something they could be doing now.
Absolutely. So that's why things of this, you know, even though you may know the points behind this, it's just a reminder to let you know how serious the role is in this. Now, you also are responsible for keeping up with all baptisms, marriages, and deaths. How many of you know that? Do stewards? Do you know that?
Yes.
No? No, every time someone comes, joins the church, you are responsible because you're responsible for the membership. You're responsible for the role in conjunction with the class leader. You are responsible for ensuring the adequate count of members. Yes, Reverend.
I had a chairman pro tem of the steward board who didn't particularly care about my style. Anyway, he, for some dumb reason, he interpreted that to say, in the third quarterly conference, the steward board is supposed to come together and decide whether they want to keep the pastor or not. I don't know how he got that. So I said to him in the meeting, I want you to read that for me, and let's see what that really says. I said, if you were doing that, I'll be hugging your neck.
Whoa. But things like that comes from not coming, not going, not having the ability to do it because in the third quarter. And this is a process.
But you could interpret it to be that. I can't. I was already.
I saw it coming.
Really? It does kind of mean that. We might as well talk plain. Well, you can interpret it your way, but I'm saying one could. Hold on a minute. I'm not saying you're wrong.
Excuse me. Reverend said the elder, and I understand the philosophy. The elder interpreted the discipline for a district. The pastor interpreted the discipline says what it says. You can't have all these crazy interpretations or you're going to have a problem.
Then you're going to have a mess.
Well, I tell you what, if I ran my church the way that book say run it, I wouldn't have a church. So let's talk.
But in lieu of where we going with this right now,
if I ran
that's
my
a sidebar conversation.
according to that book,
all right.
not only will I not have a church, you wouldn't have no budget either.
Reverend,
and I'm not saying your interpretation is wrong.
What I'm saying is that interpretation that is clear.
Read it.
It says that the steward board of each local church, and before we got into this exchange, allow me to finish it because as I was saying, it is a process that we go through, okay, and we're talking about membership of the local church. I didn't say nothing about no pastor, but at the bottom of the quarterly conference report from those entities, you have remarks. It doesn't say remarks about a pastor, remarks about this. It has been our practice to include that in our quarterly conference report, whether or not the Board of Stewards recommend.
Practice is different than what's written in the book.
Well, that's what's written.
It's a practice for us to do a lot of things. But if you read that, is all I'm saying. Go ahead.
Okay. It says that it shall conduct a survey of the membership of the church for the purpose of determining to what extent the church has supported financially and various benevolent enterprises.
Now, they could have said the pastor shall convene the steward board for the purpose of. It doesn't say that.
No, it doesn't.
I'm not saying you wrong. I'm not saying they right.
But he said he didn't know why they said it.
Well, the discipline said it. He said the discipline says what it says. The discipline don't say the pastor shall convene.
True.
And all I was saying was one could interpret it to mean that. That's all I was saying.
And you know, one thing about it, that's why it is said that everybody can't interpret.
Right.
If everybody interpreted, we'd be like the people in the Bible in Babel that tried to build the stairway to heaven.
You have a mess.
That you got all this stuff going on in your church. This is what we're talking about, trying to overcome. You had our sermon about conflict resolution. That's not a part of our curriculum. But we are going to have some differences. Well, conflict is not all bad now. Okay, it allows us an opportunity to talk. But we must come to a consensus about the interpretation of it. That's why if there's a different interpretation, then we talk with the elder, find out, okay, this is what I'm seeing here. This is what I'm hearing.
The elder shouldn't get in there.
She interprets for
her district.
Yeah.
She don't have a steward board. And that's a problem. Love my elder. Love her to death. But don't call my elder to talk about how I'm going to run my steward board. Because you won't be a steward long. Because I don't tell her how to run her district. She call her meeting, I'm here. She give me an assignment, I do it. And when I leave here and go to 1045, I love my bishop. But when he said take the authority, now he can move me, but he can't run my steward board. I'm going to do that. I may be found to be wrong. My interpretation may go all the way to judicial council. You have now due process in the church if you don't like my determination. And I may be found out to be wrong. But as long as them doors open at 10:45, I'm going to make that determination. And when the elder gives me her determination for her district, we were just in the Board of Examiners. When the elder gave her determination, what did we say, Kevin?
Okay.
End the story. Ain't nothing else to talk about.
Absolutely.
She's given her, elder, am I right? She gave us her interpretation. We sent her right back up here to her meeting. Ain't nothing else to talk about.
There is no conversation, but one thing that is clear, and the meaning of this, and where we want to go with this, is the functionality of the Board of Stewards and your responsibility.
Right.
There you go.
That's where
Stay there.
we talking about. Okay. So let's
stay there.
Keep it.
Let it go.
Yeah.
Right there.
Go ahead.
In the third quarter. Your responsibility is to ensure an accurate count of the membership. And that has a process. Certainly you don't wait until the third quarter to try to find out whether or not Miss Rosa, I haven't seen her in 2 years, so we're going to take her name out. No, there's a process. Have you contacted her? Okay. Have you contacted her? Have you afforded her the opportunity to say, well, I've been sick, or whatever her circumstances may be, to say, I've been sick. Do they financially support the church?
And
do they come?
Whose job is it to do that? That's what I was asking.
Don't take my name off the roll.
But whose job is it to The process that you're talking about. I want to see if anybody knows.
What, to initiate the
That
process?
process that you just talked about.
The class leaders.
You got it. Exactly. Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
And they take
Yes.
it to the steward board.
Exactly.
Yes.
So they don't really do the process, so to speak.
Right. They're a part of
They
the
are brought
process.
recommendations
Yes.
from the class leaders who have went and examined through that process you just described.
Correct.
That's the way it is.
Yes, ma'am.
We have people on our road that has been members, so they say. It's not funny. We laugh about it, but it's not funny.
Say it.
Okay. Has had their name on the roll for the last 10 years. They have not been to the church. They have not sent any money to the church. We have sent them letters and invited them to come so we can determine whether they still want to be members of the church. They did not show up, but you don't dare take their name off that roll. But that's my church. My mama was a member of that church.
Hey, let's put it like this. Let me say it this way. That particular process was laid out for a reason, merely because of the fact that we are responsible for an accurate count. You know, at annual conference, we always see those huge numbers as far as membership is concerned, you know, which is connected to money and all that kind of stuff. But a church cannot base its existence on the functionality on 100%, because 100% is not going to be there. Neither can you be successful with false numbers. That's fake news. Okay.
But there's a reason for the false number.
Yes.
Who knows?
And I think Bishop Cooper used to ask that question.
Why the numbers are fake?
Because they froze it.
Say it, Lalita. Get up. Speak like your mama taught you, like Lou taught you. Because you're absolutely correct. So stand up and tell us.
I think it was a general conference where
Correct.
they froze the numbers for membership in the churches.
There you
and you
go.
had to continue using the
Continue
same
using
numbers.
the number that you
No
had.
matter what your congregation was.
I want to thank, it was the 56th General Conference.
Thank
I'm not
you.
mistaken in Miami. I don't know the exact date. So, from a budgetary standpoint, this is where Linnell is going, and she's absolutely right. You can't really use that number when you're evaluating your church's ability to do certain things. And it will be, in my opinion, irresponsible of the leadership to use that number. So, but you can't break the law of the church either. So I created active membership and inactive membership. Okay, that's one way to do it. But now to your question, take them off.
That's right.
There is no law that say you can't take them off. And I heard, if it's your church, then pay some money and come. What Kay is saying is correct. We need to put it together. Once you go through the process, now what we shouldn't do is when people come to you and say, well, Sister Joanne done joined the Baptist church. And it might be true. But if they have not gone through that process that she has prescribed, then you cannot take them off. But once they go through that process, churn them and burn them.
Yeah. And you afford them certain time period in order to respond.
That is correct.
Then you are legally assigned to make a recommendation to remove them from the roll.
But I'm talking about those numbers too. Remember, they always want to know what the conference roll. You know, we got one number that the conference has. That's the frozen number from the general conference. Right. And that's totally different what we got.
That's true.
But in the I've heard Bishop ask several times, what's the conference number?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Because we
For budgetary
use those
reasons.
numbers
Yeah.
to do to leverage basically money.
Absolutely. It's all about money.
Listen, Lyons wouldn't have got that building built had he not had a record of the members of the Baptist. So the A.M.E Church uses these numbers, to get government set aside, to get all sorts of things.
Yes.
You know, that's
And if you use the real number, the probability of you obtaining those additional financial things will be very, very small. Okay. But and all that happens, so by the end of the fourth quarter, all of that, what you're talking about should be at its end. That process ends at the fourth quarter.
Can I ask the first pastor a question? back to this, and we're talking. Thank you, Holy Spirit. What about the truth of the matter?
In terms of
Numbers.
I'm talking about. I understand leveraging. I understand all of that. But we're talking to the lay people.
Right.
We're trying to be on the same page.
Right.
Basically, what I just heard is saying, well, we're gonna lie about it.
Yeah, that's what it is.
For leverage.
It's
Help
fake
me,
news.
help me.
No, he has a great question. Let me try that, and I don't know if I can answer it. That is, the number that we have in Jacksonville is not the number that you put on your annual conference report. That's right. Two different numbers. So you're not lying, and you shouldn't lie. Listen, you should put the real number on that report. Now, when it goes to Jacksonville, Jacksonville speaks for the 11th district, not for your church. Okay? We should see. It's just a matter of in-house protocol and management systems. But Ken is right, and we need to make a distinction. This is why we don't appropriate budget based on that number. We don't. Case in point, I can just talk about my church. And I don't like this first, second church stuff. As far as I'm concerned, Bethel should always be the first church in this district. Historically, that's just the way it is.
That's right.
Regardless of what budget they pay. They were holding annual conferences here before, when Methuselah was a baby. And I think that designation and that reverence of 100+ years of commitment to our Zion affords them a certain right. Mother Bethel in Philadelphia will always be Mother Bethel. Okay, now, but to that point, Mount Zion was paying more budget than Bethel before we, quote, quote, became the first church. And I didn't have a problem. Am I right? Those that know?
Right.
And so, what we appropriate budget based on your ability to pay, not your membership.
Right.
Membership has a correlation, but not as much as your ability to pay. So that's why the adjustments happen the way they do. And that's, so Ken, you should not lie on your annual conference report.
But that's what's getting in trouble. When they lie, then they feel that their ability to pay is more than what it really is.
And that's why we need to be in sessions like this.
It does.
And that's why some of the pastors that are not here, they're not competent either.
You put all the right numbers up.
And they don't like to sit under lay teacher because they think they know every darn thing.
Oh, bless it.
And the lay need to go. They need to go and learn too. We can iron sharpens iron now.
That's good.
Strong lay leadership don't bother me. I like it because we can teach each other. She sat into my classes. Today I'm sitting in hers, and I've got me a couple of nuggets already. But it's this arrogance and self-centeredness that we have that keeps the lay over here and the minister over here. But together, if we come together, we can address that. You should let your membership know. Listen, the number of 680 or whatever the case may be, and you only got 52 people in church. We use them in 52 for budget purposes and for everything else. And the 668, that number comes from Jacksonville. Because we don't speak for the 11. She has a number for her district. Don't you, Elder? Yeah, I got it. I can tell you everyone throughout the whole state of Florida. Because we still do budgets and stuff the same way. We have a formula we've been using since way back. But Ken is right. And what that does is it perpetuates a lie. And it hinders your ability to properly assess your congregation. Don't do that.
But it also leads to that mess that you were talking about. When you put that lie on the conference floor, and then you go to church XYZ, and I come to where you are, and it has perpetuated something that goes on. So it's one thing to say, let's be truthful. When we know a lot of times we look at the numbers, and there ain't nothing true about it.
Absolutely.
And the example that you gave, you said was hypothetical, but we've seen that. a church
Well,
making 20,000
yes.
and a pastor making 15.
Yes.
We have seen that on the board.
That's
Correct.
So now,
Yes, we have.
in your logical thinking, how in the world can you operate a church
On
with $5,000
Yeah.
for a year?
Right.
So somebody lying.
Right.
We can't,
Right.
we can't,
That's right. Give Evelyn the mic.
we can't
control what other churches and other districts do. But what I want my pastors and laity to do, when you fill out your pastor's report and it calls for membership, I want you to be true.
Right.
Don't y'all lie and end up in hell behind wanting to look good on the conference floor. That's why they do it. That's why they do it. They want to stand up there and say, oh, I got 1,200 members.
Right.
I was in an annual conference and a pastor down in the South stood up and on the pastor's report, flashed on the screen, Pastor K, salary, $100,000. And he said, that don't include the package. And you remember that? And Bishop almost flipped. Bishop Young, I think it was. And he said, that must be too many zeros up there. And the pastor said, no, $100,000 plus. Well, you can figure out the end of that conversation. Okay? When I come to your conference, I ask you to give me your pastor's salary by the quarter. Am I correct? And I said and at the fourth quarter, I say, this report now is the report the pastor takes the conference.
Not something you build up.
Not something, now if you pastors want to go out there and put those figures in there that's not true, you are answerable to a higher body than the bishop and myself. When I get in the council and we start talking about movement of people and numbers of people, I ask some questions before y'all give me a roll of y'all, is that right? Because we got the figures. You need to check yourselves. So anything I'm saying, pastors, I don't want you to tell a story.
Yeah.
Be true.
We saw that at the conference this year, last year. When the pastor said he made one thing, and the presiding elder got up and said, Bishop, this is not what he's reported every quarter.
Yep. Elder, don't go. Was trying to get moved.
now.
Let me can we talk? I'm leaving right now.
You're right, Sister Linnell.
Go ahead, baby.
That's another session.
We got 10 minutes.
Another time. All right, let's do this little scenario so I can make sure you understand where we need to be. Give me a reader, and then we're going to say what's wrong with this one. Okay, let's show you. Y'all not going to hijack this. No.
Sorry, madam.
That's all right. You
Go ahead
okay.
on.
You okay.
Pastor McCormick was out of town attending a conference on the district when the treasurer of the church, who was a steward, decided to schedule a meeting to discuss urgent business regarding 2 contractors and the church's finances. When time came for the meeting, only 5 out of the 15 stewards were present. Since the pro-temporal was not present, there was no agenda to follow. Help me. So the treasurer asked the recording secretary for the board to copy an old agenda that they could use. During the meeting led by the treasurer, steward board members in attendance voted to give the sexton and minister of music a $100 salary increase to avoid losing them to another church and invest half of the $2,000 allocated to benevolence in a money market account. Upon the return of the pastor, the board of stewards presented the pastor their decisions.
So what's wrong with
I
this?
know that's not the end of it. Move every one of them.
And he would. Everything.
But now you see the need to know.
Right.
Because indeed, had you not known, because stuff like this happens. Maybe not in your church, but the church of what's happening now. Okay? And it's because you do not know. You do not know. Okay? So it's important that you have these conversations. Now, just quickly, according to everything that we know, there are applicable about 3 tables, so it is written, that the stewards serve. The table of the poor, the table of the Lord, and the table of the ministry. Now, what does that mean? The table of the Lord, and we call them holy stewards. You know, now it can be an individual, or it can be a committee, which encompasses stewards for this. Their main role is to provide the elements for the Holy Communion, the Holy Supper. The Holy Steward has direction, supervision over the stewardesses. Now, we're going to talk about stewardesses real quick because I think there's a little misconception about the role of the stewardess and their responsibility, but this is the first 2. We have 2 sacraments in A.M.E. Church. What are they?
Baptism and communion.
And?
Holy Communion.
Oh, okay. Very good, very good. When we say sacrament, we know what that means, right? All right. Okay. And this is, the steward shall stand. Now, I don't know, this may differ within each church, but these are the directions. That's the role of the steward, probably on the first Sunday, or when we do a communion, that there is a responsibility of a role for the steward. You will see some counting, you will see some leading people to the altar, and you will see some other things that the board of stewards or that steward does. Now you have the table of the minister, and you call this the pastor's steward. Their primary concern is to talk about the welfare and to make sure that the pastor is taken care of. It could be a committee or it could be an individual as well, pastor's steward. And the third is the table of the poor table. This is, we call it the poor steward. But this is a benevolent individual. This person keeps up to date on the record, the names, and all of these things, those that are sick and those that are shut in. That's what this is. The stewards, as we talked about, accountable to the quarterly conference in their particular area. Let me go quickly to the stewardesses board. Who are stewardesses? The pastor in charge may nominate 1 or more boards of stewardesses, really meaning a senior board of stewardesses and a junior board. It depends on how many people you got. Again, these persons are nominated to be of good character, records of standing, whatever. The pastor shall submit, and this is the important bullet. The pastor in charge shall submit the nominations to whom? The stewards. Who will either confirm or eject. Reject. These stewardesses that are confirmed shall be held responsible by the stewards for their duties. Okay. We work together. Usually what the stewardesses do actually is the responsibility of the stewards. The elements and all of that. So here at Bethel, we have a good relationship with our stewardesses. Whatever the elements are, usually we try to pack sweat, keep us in check. When we need wafers or we need wine or there's something else, that's also done. Now, our paramedics here, okay? We know what paramedics are, right? Yes? Yes? Yes. Okay, what's our color? Now.
Green. After Tiffany.
Okay.
We got green right now.
Yeah. So those kinds of things, paramedics and the stewards are actually responsible for obtaining those. Okay. Whatever is necessary, the parents and the pastor and the steward shall remove a stewardess, of course, from the bar. If one leaves, to fill the vacancy, and stewardesses have no limited term of office. In other words, they can serve as long as they're able to do that. These are the duties, of course, we know about the Holy Communion to prepare. Once upon a time, they used to bake bread, but we've come up in the world. So we purchased the wafers, and some of us purchased
Just
the
don't say use wafers.
No, but it said prepare bread. Okay. See, he's trying to create a mix, But to make adequate preparations for baptisms, the basin and water and towels, whatever that is, dress the pulpit and the altar in the appropriate color, linen, neat, clean, after washing the hands. Now, we don't use soap, we come up in the world. So now we are allowed to use sanitizer. As the washing of hands is both ceremonial and practical, special care should be given to sanitizing the minister's hand for serving. In other words, you go, they have whatever it is that they do. Okay, make sure they use soap and warm water and the towels to ensure that the pastor's hands and the other ministers and whomever in that particular ceremony. Okay? The deaconess board, yes ma'am.
Bishop said they should wash their hands also. Yes.
Who's that?
One of the bishops said that. I forget the name. Say who?
At least 30 to 50
Just
seconds.
wash the hands too. Yeah, just wash the hands.
Everybody's supposed to wash their hands. Okay, now, finally, and I skipped over some things, but this is the thing that I want to distinguish the difference between the stewardess and the deaconess. There is a difference between the stewardess and the deaconess. Deaconesses are what? I don't hear nothing over here.
Consecrated.
Okay, they are consecrated, and they're the ones in the gray, just in case you didn't know. Okay, you see
You still wear bonnets?
Yeah, they do. Some of them do.
Well, yeah, they can.
They do. It depends on when they were consecrated. They got the little thing. But we come up in the world, but we modernize. The stewardesses attend and prepare for baptism, direct mothers as we stand, to the altar. They assist the stewards and prepare the Lord's Supper and the love feast. They prepare the parsonage for the incoming preacher, if applicable, if you still have a parsonage. Okay, they have a role in doing that, along with whom? Trustees. Okay, and dress the pulpit, and also not on the other hand, our deaconesses minister to the poor, visit the sick, pray for the dying. More role is what you would see with class leaders. Okay, care for the orphan, seek the one, comfort the sorrow, save the cynic, devote themselves in a general way to such forms of Christian labor as may be suited to their ability to serve. But they are more concerned with the sick, those that are shut in, the poor, the benevolent, the indigent. That's what deaconesses do.
Okay, but we use deaconesses as a retired student.
Yeah, we do. We do. But it was important that at least you know. How you use, it's your decision, but at least you know that there is a distinct difference between that. So,
before you go on to the next level, I did not see in there where the stewardesses assist the pastor when he goes out to commune the sick. So all of that falls under that.
Yeah.
It just doesn't spell it out. Yes, it said sick.
When I was in
But
that
that's the
service,
deaconess.
I thought I had it in there. But,
Stewart, oh.
you know, when he or she goes out to,
Yeah.
commune the sick and shut in, yeah, they prepare the,
But we don't have to go with the pastor.
usually, if a steward is available, okay,
So the deaconess would.
a steward would accompany.
A steward and a stewardess, you say?
That would be, in my opinion, that's the best group to have.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, if it's a woman in a nursing home, for example, I don't just like to go in the room. I like for my stewardess to go in there. She may need help covering herself up, she, you know, making herself ready.
Right.
And it just makes it a lot easier for me to have that. Even if I have a female steward, I'd rather have a stewardess do it. They go in there and they help them prepare themselves. And community has evolved a lot too. Because, you know, there are times when you don't want to give patients juice and bread. So we had a church got sued because they administered communion to a lady and she reacted to the juice. They did not ask the doctor. It was a harmless thing. So, you know, what I like to do is make sure that the person is able to take communion. If people having trouble swallowing and these sorts of things, you know, we really need to adjust that. You know, it's not like it used to be. People didn't sue the church. That's gone. It's sue in a heartbeat. So, you know, all of this, again, to the training that Linnell is talking about. And she did a great job today. Let's give her a hand. I don't know. But, you know, the pastor still, along with the leadership, needs to convey. When I went to Mount Zion, I would have 45, 50 people on my communion list. So I began to restrict it to hospital, nursing homes, or homebound. And we went to communal lady, and her daughter said, "Mom at Walmart," she said, "leave the check." Well, if you could go to Walmart.
She don't come to church.
Right. So we limit it to that. And you know, Saturdays and things like that, fine, but I like to go through the week. Now, I can't go every month. I try to go once a quarter. But I have ministers that go out every month. So, you know, but it's in the discipline that we need to visit our sick. And if you can't do it every month, do it as much as you can. A lot of our pastors are bivocational, and members need to understand that. But even a bivocational pastor still has a responsibility, so you need to set it up where you can do that.
Right.
Good
Okay.
job.
So, at least it is my hope that in sessions like this, I find very intriguing, because then we know how much work we got to do. Because it's very important that everybody understands, especially if you're an officer, to know what your role is. You know, some of us have been around a little bit, and the way we used to do, you know, we can't live and used to do. We got to come to where we are right now, so therefore that 1998 discipline may not help yet. Okay?
I got a question. Can the stewards meet in the absence of the pastor? And how would that work?
As long as he or she knows the purpose of the meeting, the purpose of the meeting, and there are minutes.
No. Now let me tell you about me.
I ain't talking about shit.
I'm gonna tell you about me. They can meet.
You're a different
if
animal.
the pastor, they want to talk about the pastor's anniversary, they want to talk about stuff like that. But you do not produce minutes. No, if the pastor is not at the meeting, if it's a call meeting, do not produce minutes.
Well, that's if it's a call meeting.
Well,
but if it's a regularly scheduled board meeting, and the pastor is not there, and under his or her direction, that person is usually the pro tem. Is that person that would lead the meeting. Now, as I stated earlier, if there are any business decisions, any votes, certainly we would not entertain that until the pastor is
We got in trouble in Jacksonville with a church because the stewards was meeting, and the case went to court, and the judge couldn't figure out which set of minutes was the official minutes. They were producing minutes. He was producing minutes. So remember that. And one thing else, at that meeting that you approved the minutes from last month, somebody needs to stamp them with a stamp that says receipt.
Date stamp.
Right, you got it, Linnell. That's a good thing. Because remember now, it could make its way to court. That's an official document of a meeting. And it needs to have something on it that discerns that. And also, one last thing, and I'll sit down, your letterhead should be very tightly controlled. Don't give people your letterhead and let them write whatever they want to write on it and send it out in your name. Sister Morgan, she was talking about letterhead for a group, and Sister Morgan, I told Ruth to go ahead and we're going to take care of that.
Thank you.
But what was the criteria? Let's just share it. Let's just share that for a moment. That might be beneficial. What did I say need to happen? That the church needs to what? Sanction
what I was
Yes.
trying to send out.
A guy got a copy of our letterhead and sent it to the judge saying that he had did community service because I wouldn't give him a letter to after he did it. But he called me 3 days before he was going to court wanting me to sign a lie to the judge, and when I wouldn't do it, he sent somebody down there that got a letterhead, put my name on it, but Judge Andrews knew me and called me. And he went to jail. And I went down there and told my secretary, you know, keep that letterhead, stewards, under lock and key. Okay.
Absolutely. I certainly thank you for your input.
I thank you for a great
Thank
presentation.
you.
Great
Thank you.
presentation.
Thank each of you. Okay, it is my hope that you had this learning opportunity. We have these kind of talks and ladies, right?
Yes.
So we're going to encourage you to come on. If you're not, you know, we have these kind of, I've been listening and I've been hearing questions that have been asked, and I'm saying, we talked about that lady, you know, but nonetheless, thank you for your attention, and hope to see you in the next lady.
Saturday, St. Andrew.
Very good job.
Come on, you did an excellent job.
Thank you, Linnell.
An excellent job. Once again, this information is coming to us because of our need to know our responsibilities. Sometimes we accept positions and we feel honored that the pastor has asked us to be a part of his steward board or her steward board, and we accept and not fully understand our responsibility. And then people come to you from the congregation asking questions, and you can't answer.
That's right.
Or you give out incorrect information. So I encourage you, pastors, I encourage you, I try my best not to run your church, but I encourage you to have board meetings. I encourage you to, when I pastored, I always had 15 minutes of teaching. It could be because somebody called and asked a question, and I just shared that with how, you know, the response to it. So it's teaching, because we never get too old to learn, and we're never in a position and we think we know everything. I gained some things today. If you don't have love feast, I encourage you to have love feast. It's not a service.
No.
It you know, and laity can conduct the service. You don't need an ordained individual to conduct, but it's such a cleansing, because you're ridding yourself of 30 days of mess, and preparing to partake of the blessed body and blood.
Right.
That's represented by the wafer and the juice. So I encourage you to do that. So I thank you. I'm holding you because dinner is ready. By the time we get downstairs, dinner will be ready. Now, last evening, there will be some takeout. So after dinner, if you need a takeout, do so. Now, I did ask the staff, Reverend Irby, the culinary staff, to hold approximately 35 dinners out for the persons coming in from the Clearwater area. Reverend Vince is bringing his church and his congregation and choir in, and others. So we want to feed them. We want to feed them. So we need to be mindful of that. But again, thank you, Sister Baker. Thank you so very much. Thank you for your attendance, Sister Smith.
I have a lot of information downstairs on the table. Please come by and pick it up. Take multiple bags back to your church. It can be part of your health ministry. There's some hand sanitizer. There's information for our youth. Please pick it up. Thank you.
Let us stand and be dismissed. Again, we've had a full day, and we'll get ready for the close of our district conference. Gracious and loving God, we just thank you for this day. We thank you for what our ears have heard and eyes have seen. We thank you for the presenters. We thank you for the participation. Father God, we thank you for your spirit. Now, as we leave here to go and have some dinner, bless the hands that have prepared the food for the nourishment of our bodies. Thank you, Father God, in the mighty and precious name of Jesus. And the church said, amen.
Amen.
Sister Linnell, can I ask you one simple question? Do you have